Welcome to Made for More podcast, where faith and personal growth converge. I'm Julia, and I'm honored to guide you on a journey of empowerment and transformation alongside our occasional co-host, Omar. We are passionate believers and advocates for unlocking your God-given full potential. Join us as we explore the intersection of faith, life, business, and relationships, igniting a fire within to embrace the truth that your life is destined for greatness. Together, we'll uncover strategies, insights, and stories that inspire and equip you to become the best version of yourself. Get ready to embark on a fulfilling quest towards personal and professional fulfillment, guided by faith and the unwavering belief that you, my friend, are made for more. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Julia Keeps It Real. I have with me Julie here, and I'm so excited. How do you say your last name? Squires?
Squires.
I'm like, oh, I want to say, one way, but you see like squirrel. Anyway, Julie Squires. And she is in our Faith+Freedom+Flow group. And I'm going to actually pull this up, Julie. So I'm going to read what you wrote. So this month we are talking about faith in the group. We have a focus theme every month, like I've mentioned before. And I think this is a hard one. And I mentioned this in our group that sometimes when you have like a theme that's easy to put in practice, it's easier versus faith. It's like, how do I teach on that? How do I get people to put that into action? And then like, what can be the visual, right? But faith is so hard because you don't necessarily see it. And so with that, anyway, I did a post in the group, and essentially I just said, do you have yo-yo some days, do you yo-yo some days on your faith and believe, and some days you don't, and you have that lack of faith? Do you have little faith? Like it's possible, but it hasn't always happened to you. So, and then I put, when it comes to walking by faith, like really believing and trusting that your desired outcome will happen, how would you rate yourself? Okay. And so I was telling them that basically this is how, what we're going to focus on this month. And so some people commented, and Julie put on here, like, I would say I'm at 9.5 on a scale of 1 through 10. I live by the word on this one. I am a firm believer that nothing gets to me that doesn't pass through the Father first, and that he has the best plan for my life. Even when I don't understand it or see it, I am pretty good about moving forward without worry or anxiety. He is always faithful. I only occasionally, and I mean occasionally, worry about something. God knows better than I do what I need. I don't try to put myself in his seat. He's got it, and it doesn't need my help. So, Julie, I read that and I was like, wow, you have to be a very strong woman of faith to really be able to rate yourself that, but also like say, hey, these are the reasons why. So kind of tell us, where does that come from, and how did you build this strong faith?
So I'm not really sure. I would say probably just through, sorry, I'm in my office down here. It's a little bit messy. It's a little messy if my camera moves. I would say that like mostly that through circumstance is how faith has been built. I think that it's really easy to read about it and to hear about it. The thing is like, if you really want to build your faith, you're asking for God to require it of you. So that sometimes is a scary thing. You've heard people say, don't pray for patience, because then you're going to have a lot of stuff that you're going to have to be patient about. And I kind of feel like it's the same thing with faith. And I wouldn't say that I ever prayed and asked for faith. But it's just something that I've learned through different events in my life. But I've learned, like, I'm a control freak. I like to have everything within my control and everything in my power. And so this was always hard for me when I was younger. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying it's not hard now. Mm-hmm. But I've learned through, I would say, the trial that took the longest for me to see a result, God was putting me in the fire for that one. Mm-hmm. Just because he knows I want it right now. I want it yesterday. I want to see immediate reaction or immediate results. And so I'll tell you just a little bit about it without going too deep into a bunch of details that nobody needs to hear. Okay. But when my husband and I first got married, his father had owned a business, and my husband and his father have the same name except for their middle names. Their middle names are different. And my husband's father passed away before I even met my husband. And he had taken over his father's business because his father, my husband felt like it was the right thing to do. He had some clients that depended on him. He had some employees that depended on him.
Mhm.
So he felt like it was the right thing to do rather than just put the business in the estate. He felt like it was the right thing to do to try to keep it going. So in the process of that, he found out that there were some outstanding debts that his dad's business had. And unbeknownst to him, and because they have the same name, even though it wasn't the same middle name, some of the creditors felt that my husband was his dad.
Mm.
And I know his dad intended to pay those debts. It's just that he passed away unexpectedly. And
Yeah.
so it just didn't happen. So there was a pretty substantial debt. One in particular that was about, I want to say it was like $25,000. And when we first got married, like that was in the 90s, and we were young.
Mhm.
That was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And the creditors started coming after us personally for it. And we were like, but wait, it's not our debt. It's not us, you know? And like, they even went so far as to show up where he worked because, you know, his dad was the owner of a small business. My husband was still running the business, but he had a job, like a regular job, a 9 to 5, because that business, he was paying the employees that he had and not paying himself because he was trying to do the right thing and keep it going. So anyway, they showed up at his 9 to 5 because on the paperwork that they had for the debt, you know, it said that his dad owned the business. Well, my husband worked for an insurance company. So they show up at this corporate office of an insurance company where my husband is just an employee. And they assume that he is the owner and CEO of this company. And, you know, they embarrassed my husband in the lobby of the place, like trying to serve him papers and saying that, you know, he was the owner. And he's like, the owner doesn't even know I exist. And, you know, we had to get lawyers, and we fought it for years and years and years. And like, it was to the point where it would keep me awake at night. Like, how are we ever going to pay this? We're just two young kids. Like, how are we ever going to pay this debt? And like, my husband would always say, it's going to work out, Julie. God's going to work it out. We're doing the right thing. We didn't do anything wrong. It's going to work out. And I would lay there in bed at night and he'd be asleep and I'd be like, oh, how is this going to work out? So then I would start scheming. Well, I can do this. Well, maybe I can do that. Well, what if I pick up this extra job? Well, what if I do this? And in the long term of it, it took years for it to be resolved. And we had multiple meetings with our attorney, with these people, and every management person that would look at it would say, oh yeah, you're right. I can see right here how it's not you, but I don't have the authorization. I'm not comfortable to write away $25,000 worth of debt. So I'm not touching it. And they would just pass it along the pike to somebody else. And eventually it got to the point where it was like they dropped it. It just out of nowhere, they dropped it and we never heard from them again.
Wow.
And we don't know specifically who, but I know that it was God that did that.
Yeah.
And it's just happened multiple times over my life. You know, scares of illnesses and things with your kids and situations where you're like, I've got a situation at work and I don't know how this is going to get any better. And I don't see a way out of this. And God has got a funny sense of humor because he does things in ways that you're like, huh, never would have thought of that one.
Right.
Because when you're a control freak and you think you've got every angle figured out and you can plan and figure out how to do everything, God's like, no, you don't.
Yep.
Wait till you see what I'm going to do. And
Yep.
it's kind of gotten to the point in my life now where I'm just like, there's actually something going on in our life right now, which I'm not at liberty to share what it is, but I'm kind of like, I don't even worry about it. I'm just waiting for God to move. And then I can't wait to see how he works it out. And I know that he will.
Yeah.
He always does. He's always faithful. It's not in my timing because I wanted it done a long time ago. It's never in my timing, but nothing comes to me that doesn't go through him first. Everything that comes to me has to be okayed by him. And sometimes those are good things and sometimes those are bad things. And I don't get mad at God about that because nobody is promised a life that's easy and problem-free. And it might look on the outside to you like other people have that, but they don't. Nobody has that.
Nope.
Nobody has an easy life. They might have problems that are different than your problems, but nobody has a life that is without some kind of something. And so those things that are not pleasant that we deal with, they're always for our benefit. They are always to grow us or to move us in some way in a direction. They're to open a door and shove us through where we would not choose to go for ourselves. And when those times have happened too, God's plan is always better than the one I've got.
Yeah.
You know, there's things that in my life that I have felt like, oh, I definitely want to do this, and this is the path I'm going to take. And I make all my plans and they're good things. They're not things that are bad. There are things that are good things, but they're not things that are things for Julie.
So true.
So I have to be willing to let go of the things that are not for Julie and take hold of the things that are, because those things are better. Even though you can't see it at the time. So there was a career choice. Here's another example. Years and years ago, I thought that my career field was going to be music. Mm-hmm. And I went to college on a music scholarship, and that was my thing. That's what I always did. And that is a talent that I have. Mm-hmm. But that wasn't the career God had for me. And that was very disappointing. Yeah. At first. But now, I was just thinking about it the other day. It was randomly, I was mopping the kitchen floor and I was like, you know what? Years ago, I wanted that to be my career. And I thought that was the career for me.
But how did you know?
I'm sorry?
How did you know it wasn't though? Because I feel like people get in that space of like, this is what I think I need. This is where I'm going. How did you know God was directing you somewhere else?
Because the doors weren't opening. The opportunities would come along and the doors would be closed in my face. And that was hurtful. Yeah. It was hurtful. And so, but I got to thinking about it the other day, and looking back, my life would be completely different than what it is now. And I'm probably the most content I have ever been. Even though we're in a crazy time right now with the economy and, you know, I work in a school like you do. And I'm actually a school counselor. And, you know, a lot of the kids have come back from being home with COVID, and, you know, they're traumatized and their anxiety levels are high. They've lost social skills. They, you know, they're just little babies that aren't ready to be in the world, you know, even though I work in a middle school. Right. So, I know that like where I'm at now is where I'm supposed to be. But if I was doing the other career, I don't even know that I would have kids if I had done the other career, because I don't know that I would have had the ability to mother them and to be home with them. And, you know, it's like, so what you think is best isn't always what's best. And a career in music is not a bad thing, right? But it was a bad thing for me. Yeah.
Wasn't for you. Oh man, you said so much that I kind of want to go back to. So you mentioned being a control freak, and that is so me. And I feel like I've had to work on letting go of it a little bit, and even saying like that was a past identity of mine, because God is in control, and I need to have that trust and let him take the wheel. But because I'm still not married, because I don't have kids, because I get to control my house, like the dishes are put up because I want them up. Like I get to control everything. And then I go to my school, and although I wish I could control my children and the teachers and the parents a little bit more, I can't, but I still feel like I have some control in my day and what's going on, right? And so it's funny because you mentioned that, you know, you feel like you were being tested basically with your faith. And it seems like the things that I want the most that I don't get sometimes, you know, like the things that I'm like yearning for, that I'm having to kind of wait on a little bit more and have faith that his timing is better than mine. Cause like you said, like I want it now. There's two big things in my life and I'm like, I want this now. And it's not right now. And I have to know that even though that might be my plan, there's a reason why, you know, I'm not where I'm wanting to be in this area, and that this hasn't happened yet, because maybe I'm still in that growing season. I'm still in the learning season, or whatever the case may be. You mentioned doors closing. I had some of those similar things happening too, which was new for me. Opportunities always tend to fall in my lap. And even whenever it's career things or whatever, And so when I had like some doors closed on me, I'm like, what is this? This is new. But I had to trust that that happened for a reason. And God's got something better for me. Whether I know what that is or not, I can't see it. But one day I'll be able to look back and say, okay, I see what you did there. So I love that. And I love you said he has a good sense of humor, because he really does. Like and since you're in education, you could think about this too, how it might even be, and I know probably shouldn't say this because it's a public podcast, but you said like, let's say like there's chaos, and then you're like, okay, I don't know what I can do. But then all of a sudden, like that one teacher that's, difficult to work with, all of a sudden they're not going to be there anymore. Or that one family that's difficult, they moved away, so things like that happen. You're like, oh, okay, I see how you saved me when I asked for like more peace. Like you just, poof, be gone. So I kind of can relate to those moments whenever you mention that, and that he's always doing things for our benefit. That goes back to that Bible verse. And I don't know the exact Bible verse, but I should actually, Romans 8:28. I'm shocked I remember, but I only know that from a TV show that he's doing it all for our good, right? That everything works together for our good. So I love that. So tell me, like, you kind of mentioned life perspectives on your faith, but kind of tell me business perspective. Because I know sometimes even in business, like you're not getting the sales you want or the recruits you want, or business, you think it's going to be easy and it's not. Just kind of, how do you walk by faith when it comes to your business?
Well, that's a little harder because, there's all these strategies and formulas that if you do X, Y, and Z, then you're going to get this result. And, those results don't always come. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that you did anything wrong. You could have done everything right and followed it to the T. And the people that you needed to come into your path just weren't the ones who did. And again, I think you just have to trust that the timing is not right. And sometimes, like I have been in direct sales. Let me just tell you, I have lots of jobs. I'm a type A personality. So these are the jobs that I currently have. I am a middle school guidance counselor. I am a cheerleading coach at the school. I have a direct sales business. I'm the treasurer for our church. And I've been working on my real estate license, which I was supposed to finish this month, but I feel like that's a door that God is closing right now. And it's not a door that I feel like he's permanently closing. I feel like that's a door he's saying, not right now. And I'm okay with that. So, but I've got a lot of jobs. So with, in business, so with before I was in education, I was also in corporate America for a long time. Okay. Education is not my first career. And I was a teacher before I became a counselor. So I've done lots of things. And I think that in business, what I've learned is you still have to trust God, that the timing will be there when it's the right time. I have been in direct sales companies my entire married life. I did that starting that first Christmas because, we had that big debt hanging over our head. And I'm like, oh, we're going to have to buy Christmas gifts, for everybody. And so I started a direct sales business thinking that would be a little extra money to bring in Christmas. And little did I know, over 20 years later, here I still am. But I've not always been with the same company. And I've stuck with companies for a really long time. And some of the companies I've built pretty large teams with. I've had, I don't want to say any names of any companies, but previous companies that I've been with, I was pretty senior leadership. And I'm not that way in the company that I'm in now. That's not the season of life that I'm in. Would it be nice if I had that kind of income rolling in? Hey, absolutely. It sure would. But it's not for this season. And so sometimes I think, God's saying, I don't want you to devote so much time to this or that. I want you to devote it over here. So again, you just have to trust. And I've always, somebody in our direct sales, somebody higher up than me right now, she's directly above me. She says, I don't want, and she's actually in your Faith Freedom Flow group, but she says, if they don't sign with me, then it's not to be. Like, she doesn't want people on her team that aren't supposed to be there.
Right.
And I've worked under people before that say, recruit anybody that will sign up. We don't care. But I've always looked for a certain personality, like, because if you get people on your team that don't want to work and all they want to do is have you do the work for them.
Right.
that sucks the life out of you.
Yep.
And that's time away from you and your family and your business. And so I'm a little more choosy. Like if anybody came to me and said, I want to sign up, I'm not going to say, no, I'm not going to take you, but I don't actively recruit those people. I look for a certain kind of person, because I'm only going to devote X number of hours to it a week. And I want that time that I spend on it to be time well spent. So I know that there's a lot of people out there that think that's not the right philosophy, but it's the philosophy that works for me. So when something in my business doesn't go the way I think that it should, I'm just trusting that God's saying, that person's not for you, or that situation is not for you. What I've got for you is over here. And I just have to trust that he's always right.
Yep.
Like I can never go back and look and say, yeah, God, you were right, except that time or that time, because he's always right.
Yeah.
So
I love that. I think that's a great philosophy. I'm always about quality over quantity. And I know plenty of people that have a team of 1,000 and their check and their, impact is the same as somebody on a team of 100, because it really just comes down to who you're serving and how the quality of people that are on your team, instead of just trying to get quantity and get like, I need all these people, and then literally only 20 are working, and so right. I totally agree with that. And who joined you is for you. And I think the more I turned my my business into like a business tree and realized that, okay, these people came into my life for a reason. And especially now with social media, like I probably wouldn't know this chick from Kentucky if it wasn't for this business, but maybe God wants me in her life for a reason, more than just we have a mutual product that we're going to share together. Maybe she needs my light. Maybe she needs my energy. Maybe she needs my guidance. Maybe she needs my inspiration. Maybe she needs that in my stories, my quote or my Bible verse or whatever, just to keep them going. And so I think that sometimes if we focus more on the business being something that is a way to serve people more so what can I get out of it, I think that's when sometimes God opens up more doors for you, because he's saying, hey, look at you. You're stewarding this well, right? Like I want to continue to bless this. But when we're looking for, I need my more people, I need my more money, I need my more sales, right? Then it's like, what do you need this for? And one thing,
like my business has always been the most successful when I quit focusing on the sales and the recruiting and the money. I feel like it's the most successful when I quit focusing on the business part of it. I feel like relationship building is the key that drives it. So like if you're really wanting, or if you need to, for your family's finances, if you really need for your business to take off, focus on the relationships of the people that you're working with, that are signing up with you, or that are your customers.
Yeah.
Or people that maybe you would like to have be your customers, but it needs to be genuine. Take an interest in their lives, but like if you are filling other people, if you are filling their cup with whatever it is that they need. And sometimes, like I always just try to wish people a happy birthday and a happy anniversary and tell them how cute their kids are. And if one of their children did something positive, I just try to let them know, hey, your kid, you're doing a great job as a mom. This is what your kid just said and did, or I saw your child do this. People need that. This world is so negative. And sometimes people are going through stuff that we have no idea. And they just need somebody to take an interest in them where they don't expect anything in return. And when you're not expecting anything in return, that's usually when you get it. Yeah.
So true. I think that's when it's a cool blessing too. And you're like, oh, I was just doing good. And I didn't, like you really weren't expecting anything back. And then I don't know, I think that's when I get the most cool blessings. When I'm like, oh my God, why did you do this? I wasn't, expecting this. And it might even not be the same. It might not be directly. It's just an indirect thing that even God can bless you with. I remember one time I gave somebody a $20 bill. And, just as I was like, you know what, I've been blessed, I'll give it, whatever. And then it wasn't, but like a few days later, somebody decided to give me a $20 bill. And it's like, God, you're so cool that you use the exact same increment, to show me like, hey, I'm giving you this back because you were good, So anyway, I just think that was an interesting part. But I think another thing that you said that's kind of reminded me for people that might struggle with faith or struggle with kind of like trusting, because you said he's always right. It reminds me of, even as, you know, and I know you're a mom, but even when you think back to your own parents, like, and I know everybody's mom, dad situations aren't the same, and not everybody has that lifestyle. I mean, I was blessed with great parents, or they're still my parents. So blessed with great parents. And so it goes back to like, my mom is always right. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, even if I want to fight it, or I'm like, no, I don't think you really know, mom. What do you know? You know? And it's like, no, she knows. And so a lot of times when our parents, when we were growing up and they're telling us no to that piece of candy, it's because they know that that's going to spoil the dinner. And they're telling us no in that time because they know something's better. Or no for this because you think you want this, but you don't realize that little $5 toy is messing up that extra $5 that I need for that bigger toy that you're going to get for your birthday. So I'm telling you no now, but you got something bigger and better coming. And I know these are small like examples, but I think a lot of times when we look at how parents parent, that is exactly how God parents us. And I often need that reminder for myself. It's like, no, he's trying to discipline me in this area, or he's telling me no because he's just like any other parent and he wants something, he has something better, or he delights in knowing the desires of my heart. I remember, you know, what do you want for Christmas? And I'm telling them what I want because they want to try to, you know, get things on your wish list, right? And so the more I get reminded about that, the more I can have faith and walk by faith in that, and trust that God is a good father, and that is truly, he has our best interest at heart. And he's always right. Like we said, he's always right.
Sometimes too, I think, you know, we don't have things because we don't ask for them. You know, the Bible says there are some things that you will not receive unless you ask me for them. We need to ask God for what we need. He already knows,
right? But
he wants us to come to him and be humble and say, I need your help with this, or I need you to move, or I need this. And again, then we have to wait for it. And, you know, and we have to be willing to accept whatever his answer is, because he always answers prayer. Sometimes it's yes. Sometimes it's maybe, or wait. It's never maybe. Sometimes he already knows what the answer is going to be. It's either wait, yes, or no. But if it's no, then you have to trust that what he's going to give you instead is going to be better, because he knows what's best. It's just, you know, and some things only come by prayer and fasting. Sometimes you have to, and, you know, when I used to think of fasting, I used to think, oh, like I can't go for a week without eating. Like I would pass out. I would have a migraine. I wouldn't, but fasting, you know, as I've gotten older, I've learned that, you know, you can fast all day and then eat dinner at night, or you can fast from watching TV. You know, it's the sacrifice. It's that you're giving up something.
Right.
So
I love that. So kind of, you know, maybe, I don't know, I guess I'm just thinking like your last minute thoughts or tips on somebody that's maybe they're saying, hey, Julie, I see you're at a 9.5 with your faith, and I'm feeling like I'm a 2 or 4. What should I do? Or, you know, what advice do you have for me to kind of make those small steps where I can trust a little bit more or walk a little bit more by my faith?
So I would say the first thing is get in God's word. And, you know, and I don't recommend like, you know, some of the Old Testament for that. Go to the New Testament, read where God's promising things and telling us, you know, Hebrews 11:1, faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. You have to you're going to have to take that first step, and you're going to have to say, all right, God, I don't know how you're going to do it, but I can't do it. And I'm going to have to trust you to help. I'm going to have to trust you to do it. So, and then you have to really tell yourself, okay, here I am. I'm worried about it. I'm worried about it right now. I'm going to stop worrying because I'm going to remember God's got this. He doesn't need my help. He doesn't need my help in solving this. And, I apologize. I've got allergies. And I would, you know, you just have to have that self-talk. Get in the word, pray, and then have that self-talk. Whenever you start to doubt or start to think, you need to stop yourself and say, stop. He does not need my help. And then just wait. You have to sit back and wait. But God will move. He will. You have to be patient for it.
I love that. And even in that Waymaker song, I'm I'm like, oh, that line was for me. Whenever they say, even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop. You never stop working. And I'm like, oh, like there's so many days where I will like put that line on repeat and like back it up or just sing it to myself, because I need that reminder of, even though I can't see it, he's working. Even though I can't feel it, he's working. And I think even too, going with the word, and like you said, New Testament, I started that. I didn't start in the Old Testament when I started reading. I started in the New. I started with Matthew and John and just all the goodness. But I think just, you mentioned self-talk, which is important, but also just prayer. And prayer is literally just conversations and talk with God. So when you are struggling with that, talk to him about it. Let him know, hey, I'm struggling. And I'm going to ask you for some small steps today. Lord, I'm going to put some faith in this. I'm going to take a baby step here. And I want to see, maybe you just need to see things, ask for those signs, ask for clarity, ask for breakthrough. Goes back to, like you said, about asking. So I appreciate so much of your goodness today, Julie. And I know that this was definitely going to bless somebody, because just hearing your wisdom and your journey and your testimony, I think is hopefully going to encourage somebody that's listening in. So thank you for your time.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me. And I want to say real quick too, if you don't know how to pray, it doesn't have to be some fancy formal thing like what you hear on TV or at church. God wants you to talk to him just like we're talking right now. It doesn't have to be anything formal. Just say, hey, God, I'm here. I need your help. He listens to that.
Yeah, for sure. Even more, because it's from the heart.
Yep.
It's all about
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you.